Hey, good morning and welcome to Coffee Talk, the episode during the week or at the end of the week on Sunday where we drink some coffee and we talk about tanks last week and what's coming up in the future. At least as far as I think, because this is my video. So we're going to talk about missions. We're going to talk about an interesting sale. We're going to talk about the spaghetti mission. You can see that clearly I have the progetto. We'll talk about how I got that, how that went down. We'll talk about, sounds like a big mystery, right? How it went down. Let's talk about patch 1.0.1. The Italians are showing up to join their brother here in the garage. There is a video by Wargaming talking about the future of World of Tanks. Some interesting things on that. We'll discuss some of those point by point. And then related to that is a forum post called Map Mondays, where I talked about that last week, where Wargaming NA employees are doing some weekly things on the forum to kind of engage in the forum. But there's an interesting write-up on fjords. I know it's fjords. On fjords that I'm going to talk about because I think it speaks a lot to the mentality. So we'll dig into that after we get past the future thing. So let's get started. Grab your coffee. I have mine. Let's have a drink. Early on a Sunday morning because I'm kind of old and I get up early. But here we go. Let's start with Coffee Talk. Well, let's start with the progetto. You can see that I have it in my garage right here. And it still has it has the ridiculous skull of a cow stuck on the side. Is that something that has to do with the Italian military, or I don't know, is a cow's head, I don't know. It just seems very strange to me that of all the, and this may be one of those, hey, we're testing the little 3D things that we're going to eventually let you add to the tank. So who knows if everyone is going to be able to run around with cow skulls stuck to the side of their tanks at some point. I assume so. If they're going to make 3D items, a cow skull is as likely as anything, I suppose. All right, so how did I get it? I got to 70%. I liked this mission for the progetto. There wasn't a win requirement. It was base XP, so as far as having a premium account or not a premium account didn't really matter. And it was just a grind XP. It was quite a bit, what, 312,000, something like that. But it was definitely doable if this is your hobby and you like to play this game. You're probably going to have to play it maybe a little more than usual. Some players probably played it as much as usual and ended up with it. But if you were a more casual player, you could go and sprint for that 2 weeks and you could come up with $30 or $40 value. Unfortunately, one of the things they did, and I understand why they did it, but they had a package which had all these extra items in it. These were the items you were going to win as you went along. Things like the equipment, the extra premium days, the reserves, things like that. So if you were going to buy the package, you were getting all that stuff, and so that was part of the price of the package. So when you got your discount, which mine ended up being 70%, it was off this big package. You were actually buying extra stuff along the way. There wasn't an option to buy it alone. They did say that they're going to bring that in, and it would have been nice if they'd have done it before, but I do understand what they were doing. Bottom line here is I got this for about 21 bucks US, which is a pretty good deal for a tier 8 premium. Is it a good deal for a pixel tank? I don't know. World of Tanks, Wargaming, World of Tanks, tanks. Wow, that's a mouthful. Say that fast 10 times. Have always been a bit pricey. 50 bucks, 40 bucks for a tier 8, that's quite a bit. If you consider multiple tier 8s, it's a lot of money along the way. I think personally for me, it's an okay value. I can afford to do that to some extent. I'm not going to buy every single thing, although I have a lot of them. Especially lately, I haven't really been buying because they start to become redundant. So on the one hand, it's a little disappointing that they didn't just sell it as a single tank. On the other hand, I sort of understand what was going on because as you got more and more discount, 70% off of just the tank itself was not going to bring them in much money. So you may have a different thought on that. From a marketing standpoint, I get what they were doing right there. So end of the day, no big deal. I got 70% discount. So that's what ended up happening for me. Let me know what your stories were on the Progetto and how you did down there. Anybody get it for free? I'm assuming some of you did along there. So that brings us then to the missions other than the Progetto. So if you go over here to the missions tab, the events tab is still the Progetto. One last thing on the Progetto. You have until May 3rd to use your discount. It's very important if you're planning on buying it or you're on the fence and trying to figure it out. So you still have some options. Remember that when they say May 3rd, it's sometime really early in the morning here in North America. So really you have until May 2nd. Unless you're planning on waking up at 2 a.m. and trying to do it at the last minute. So just remember those dates. Usually mean the day before realistically. We have a couple of the Ace Tanker things going on. I'm not going to bother with those. We have the Centurion AX on track. That's actually a pretty good tank and a good tank line. And when we dive down here, all right, this was interesting. The weekend missions here, XP Fever, and I didn't actually realize this, but these are all for premium tanks except for tier 10. You see it's broken down here. This is XP Fever Victory with tier 10. So naturally you would start with tier 10. And then the next card over would be tier 6 to 7 naturally, right? So 10, 6, 7, and the next card over... how many times have I brought this up? And you're probably tired of me saying it, but it's just, it really is ridiculous, man. Can you not just put it in order with lower tier to higher tier or higher tier to lower tier? Why the randomness? I don't even know. When you build this stuff, somebody fix me on the programming side. It seems like there would be, I don't know, man. I don't get it. When you're looking at your UI, how does QA not find something like that and go, oh, that makes no sense. It's just all random jumbled in there. Blows my mind. Blows my mind. All right, so premium tanks except for tier 10. That I don't get either. What was the point? Now, I understand because this weekend has premium sales. We'll get to that in just a minute. So there's discounts on premium tanks. So it's kind of a premium tank weekend thing. But why would you make your missions for premium tanks? Only, really, except for tier 10. That's really odd. Really odd. And what you're getting is some extra reserves. Well, I'm sorry, you're getting extra experience. There it is. You're getting extra single bonus to additional combat experience once you do this thing. Ah, man, I don't know. I don't get it. I really don't. I mean, it's a good chunk of experience. Not amazing, but it's a pretty good chunk. So the other thing I understand from reading, and I haven't tripped this one yet, is the experience goes on the last tank you played to trip the mission. So be careful with that. If you're thinking, hey, I want to, well, you don't get a choice. Let's put it that way. It's going on the last tank you played when you trip it. So that's great if you're grinding, but and maybe that's the point. They didn't want to give it to regular tanks. They're just going to dump it on a premium tank, which then you're going to have to transfer into free experience at some point. I don't know, man. I like the idea of what you get, but that it's stuck to premiums, I don't understand that other than them being tight with experience, which is weird because experience is just, it's out there all the time. You got reserves, there's all kinds of stuff. Just kind of a strange mission. All right, let's move on. Before we really get into the sales, just related to sales, remember that the tanks on the tech tree are also discounted for gold. So you can buy them on the tech tree. As an example, the 58 mutts right here, if you put your cursor over it, previous cost 8,700, on sale 7,395. I've mentioned this nearly every time we've talked about this, but that's a pretty good deal if you've got extra gold lying around just to grab up any of these tanks you might want. I'm not getting this because I have the black mutts. I don't really need another mutts. But there you have it. It's tier 8 all the way down. So wherever you've got a tech tree premium, you're going to get a discount, and they're better as they get down to the lower tiers. Right, so check this out. Look what's on sale, top left there. Yes, sirree, the mutant is back in the shop for 72 hours. Easy for me to say. The hard sale, right? Create urgency. My gosh, you've got to get this because it's never coming back. I don't think the verbiage says never coming back, but it does say limited sale, which is true. So you got a couple days left. And it's 2 packages, unfortunately. So you're either going to pay 60 bucks or 84 bucks for this bad boy. There does not appear to be an ability to buy it outright. I do not see it as I scroll down. So it's a package. The Mauerbrecher, whatever it is also on sale. The Chinu Kai, which is a very average, but it is a crew trainer for Japanese tanks, which are very average on the medium side. Anyway, that's also on sale right there. So we go over to the featured. There it is. And what's interesting here, let's find out. I'm curious what the verbiage is on this thing, as I make you watch me go back and forth. Let's see. This is your chance to pick up the rare. Yeah, it used to be super rare. I saw a few of these driving around this weekend, which made me look because I didn't realize that it was on sale until I took a look at it. It's only available in the premium shop for 72 hours. Yeah, they didn't do anything. They didn't say anything silly like you'll never buy it again or whatever. So good on them. If you want that, there you have it. And, you know, just reminding the beta testers and the early adopters of the game that their promises are wind. Every once in a while, they got to let you know we'll do whatever we want. Remember, they said they wouldn't sell it. They gave it to beta testers. Anywho, there it is on sale. Get it if you want it. Which reminds me, actually, full disclosure here, I do own one of these things. Not from the beta, I joined right after beta. But I did buy it the last time I sold it. It wasn't too long ago, maybe a year ago. Has it been longer? I don't know. You get older, everything seems like yesterday. Or 1,000 years ago, whichever way you're looking at it. But I do own this thing. It is a premium tank, and it has preferential matchmaking, which is problematic in today's 357. Used to be pretty amazing tank as far as armor goes. It's not so much anymore. I don't have a review on it. That's probably one I should do a review, although not a lot of people own the tank and it's not really widely available. So would I recommend getting it? It's kind of a unique collector's thing, really, but more than a great tank. You can do well in it. I think it fights a lot like that, a lot like the French M449, whatever the premium one is, with pretty good frontal armor, but not a whole lot else going for it, and a kind of a mediocre gun. That's really what this thing is. So there you have it. If you're a collector, it might be something that's on your list. Okay, so patch 1.0.1 is on its way. This is off a status report. The date seems to be, according to them, May 1st or 2nd to go live on Wednesday. The EU and NA regions will most likely roll out on Tuesday, the 3rd of May. So that is a coming. What is in it? Jumping over to our Conan's blog. Let's take a look. All right, so big thing is frontline mode. Lord, save us from Wargaming's new modes. When we get to the future of Watt thing, they're talking about new modes again. Dude, stop with the new modes. Anyway, here it comes. We're going to get into respawns and magic healing spots and... oh, lordy. Tier 8 battles, 30 versus 30. Going to be a big kind of chaotic thing. There are objectives in it. Defenders are defending the main objectives. You can see that the battle size is all this stuff. Gameplay, both teams attacking each other. There's different stages. Capturing bases. Oh, lordy. Base defense system. Overtime. We're going into overtime, fellas. Zone capturing. So, oh, Lord. Pillboxes. So what's this look like? Well, when you bring a bunch of guys in from FPSs, you know, a bunch of guys that did stuff like, not specifically, but stuff like Destiny and Call of Duty and all these kind of first-person shooters with all this same mechanics in it, this is what you're going to get, right? They're going to do what they know, and they're going to bring this kind of stuff to World of Tanks. Respawn mechanics, fantastic. Let's respawn. Repair zones, yes. All we need now is a healer tank, so he can run around and, I don't know, it's got a little, get his ratchet out and fix your tank. Combat reserves. Hey, who wants to know airstrikes in World of Tanks? That seems fun. A recon plane. Engineering. Smoke screens. Inspire. Rank system. All right, so anyway, it's going to be tier 8, so that's going to, in theory, peel off tier 8s out of the matchmaker. Is that going to help the 357? That remains to be seen. I don't know. North America is a little different, I think, really, than EU and RU as far as what the matchmaker's doing. I think it's fairly similar across the board, but I think because of our lower population, we have a few more problems with the 357. What this is going to do, whether help or hinder, I don't know. We'll have to see on that one. I don't want to make any prognostications on that one. I will say that, once again, spending time on this completely new game mode with all these new game mechanics before you address the balance problems you have in your main game, that is a line of effort that is completely misprioritized. I don't understand this, except in the context of that you hire these kind of guys that this is what they do, this is what they know, that's what they're going to bring to your game. So if it's the new direction and it turns World of Tanks into this new juggernaut and brings it up to the top, then I'll eat crow. I probably won't play it. So that's more where I'm coming from. It may be successful. I don't know. This is the kind of game content that a lot of big games use, the same kind of ideas. So you cannot deny that it's popular and that there are people that do it and love to play it. That's really not my thing. But we'll check it out, see how it goes. You're going to get some in-game hints with this. Suspicious message alert. Okay, so how many of you have been getting the little gold guy? Hey, gold for free or discounted, or we can pump up your account. We'll go ahead and get you, new tanks, and we'll increase your win rate, all that kind of thing. I get one every time I log in, just about. And if I'm sitting around logged in for long enough, I'll get another one. So apparently the fix is not to try to stop those guys, but we're going to put a suspicious message alert. Now, why would we not want to stop those guys? Well, because those guys are numbers, right? It's another account that's being built. It pumps up the numbers. They have the bigger numbers where they look at, people who stick around for a long time. Excuse me. So a lot of these bots that are doing these advertisements to everybody obviously don't play games a lot or anything like that. But they do increase the initial login numbers and how many accounts are built. So there you have it. That's the fix for that. Instead of stopping the guys from doing it, you're going to get a suspicious message alert. That indicates to me that they know it's possibly a bot. So, all right, I don't know, man. It's awesome. It is awesome. Stronghold stuff. Maps. Added a new summer map province. And moved respawn zones for both teams further from the center of the glacier. Respawn zones of both teams further from the center of the glacier. This is the second time I've seen this word used. And I don't know if that's a translation problem on the blogs. But respawn is the word that keeps getting used as opposed to spawn. I think that's probably just a translation thing. Clearly nobody respawns. It's where you spawn. There you go. There's a few little fixes, and we've got the buff for the various Clan Wars reward tanks, and of course the Italian tanks we put in. So I think the big thing on this is obviously frontline mode. Be a lot of people checking that out, seeing if it's any good, how much fun that is. And then the Italian tanks is going to be the new line to start trundling up, along with buffing tanks that didn't need buffs because they overperform anyway, which we talked about last week. All right, that is all I believe on 1.0. So let's move on to the future. This should be fun. Here we are in the future, and I am over on Harkonnen's blog again, taking a look at what's coming next. What is coming next? This video is on the Wargaming website, on World of Tanks website. This is old Anton talking about the future of World of Tanks. I won't make you watch this video. I took a look at it. One thing, just as a general overall thing about these videos that Wargaming puts out, especially when it's the developers, it's kind of weird because they talk about themselves a lot, about what they did and how hard stuff was and and all these things that were very difficult to do. It's very strange. I don't really give two craps about how hard it was. What I mean, what are you doing? I don't care how hard it was. What's the future? What are the things? What are your thought processes? Not, it was very difficult and we worked long hours and just to give this to you, so love us because we're the developers. I mean, I don't give two shits about that, man. What was your thought process and what's coming? Some of that is in there. This is the translation. Remember, translation to English, so we're going to lose some context in here. But I thought there were some interesting things going on or being said. This first one, and all this is in the video. So if you want a good laugh and you're kind of interested in how people communicate, and you've been watching the game a long time, I sort of recommend watching the video because you're going to laugh at some of the things they say. It's kind of silly on a couple occasions. Based on surveys, overall, players like all reworked maps. Is that true? Is that true? It is not true for me. It's not even close to true for me. Is it true for overall? It actually might be, because the people who watch this video and pay attention to the forum and are interested in the game meta are about this much of the player base. Most people are casual. Most people don't even ever go to the forum. Most people just play the game. So when a survey comes up and they see we got 1.0 and it's new graphics and some maps have changed, they don't either care or know that much about the meta. So as far as they're concerned, it's all fantastic. Nice changes. The graphics look great. And they wouldn't really know what an imbalance was to begin with. And that's an interesting thing, because then maybe you can say the imbalance doesn't really matter. If the majority of the players never understand what the imbalance is and it really doesn't affect them on any kind of conscious level, then who cares? And that has a lot to do with the way they market and the way they plan their game. I mean, why would you plan everything for a player like me who has a pretty intimate knowledge of the game? You might listen to us for certain things, but overall, if you send a survey out and all the players say, yeah, I like the reworked maps, why would you worry too much about someone like me who's babbling about fjords or glacier and how craptastic they are? So I get that. I do. There's a lot of that. But for me, this statement is a joke. But as a absolute truth, not as an absolute truth, but as a truth as far as their survey goes, it's probably true. It's probably true. There are plans to rebalance 10 maps. Okay. Please don't. Can you just leave the maps alone? You're not to be trusted. Okay. Let's see. That's a map. That's going to be a Polish map. There's 2 plans for Kharkov. This one cracked me up. All right, so there's 2 plans for Kharkov. Remember, it's the one that has had the little circle, looked like I call it the wagon wheel in the one corner of it. It was a city map. They recently took it out. So they're rebalance and change it again. Okay. Or create a brand new one with the characteristic plaza. All right, here's the thing, fellas. The plaza sucked, okay? It may be characteristic and iconic of Kharkov. It might even been a central part of the battle. But as far as a place that anybody went on that map, it sucked. So please don't use please don't use it. Not in the way you used it. It was a no-go zone. Some lights would go down there. Guys would kind of hang out on the corners, and occasionally a flank through there aggressive would work. It sucked. The rest of the map was actually pretty decent. I sort of liked that one. I talked about it last week because what they did is they removed all those city maps that everyone whined about, when in reality the city maps were pretty good brawling maps, and especially the ones they took out were not really alleyway brawling maps. There were some alleyways on them, but there were plenty of ways to kind of come around tactically and get different shots, angles, and things. That will come into my Fjords discussion because something interesting was said there, which really speaks to dumbing down this game. All right, we'll get to that though. They're going to revive some old maps, but not Dragon's Ridge. Isn't it interesting that one of the maps so many people say bring back is Dragon's Ridge? Now, I don't think they understood how craptastic that map was because it was pretty bad. But it it had some serious elevation things. I think if they flattened that one out a little bit, might be actually pretty good. But that's my point here is that's one that players talk about a lot, and that's the one they're putting their foot down. That one's not coming back. Okay, all right. There's a curious 2-in-1 idea to bring port back. I don't know what that means. I think interesting maybe might be the word that they were trying to use there. So that's a translation thing. I don't really know what they're trying to get at right there. They're working on different maps. Got it. Havoc. They're talking about Havoc. That's good. Yeah, let's bring. If you notice, some of the destruction mechanics and the graphics are a little bit wonky. Some of the buildings destroy pretty interestingly. Some of them are still kind of just disappearing depending on the map. I've noted that on Airfield. There's some buildings up in the little towns. In the past, they would just sort of crunch and go away. And there's some of that graphics is still in there. So they're still working on updating all that stuff. And I'm going to go off on a tangent here because this is really interesting. 1.0 graphics were noticeable and interesting about the first week. And it's actually mentioned in here in the video that at this point, I don't really remember the older graphics, and I don't remember them as bad, and the newer graphics don't matter because it's still the tank game, and I'm so busy playing the tank game and trying to shoot the other guy. The graphics are a background that doesn't matter. The music I've turned off. It doesn't matter. Is that true for every player out in the general populace? I don't know. For me personally, at this point, got it, 1.0 graphics, who cares? Gameplay is back to the forefront. And you got a week out of me. Maybe you're getting a month out of other people. I don't know. That's my sidebar right there. New content is the priority. Wargaming has quite a lot planned in the near and medium future. All right. Wrong answer. Your gameplay should be the priority. You have a serious problem with your gameplay right now. You really and truly do. And I think your priorities are whack. All right. Personal missions 2.0. I do like that. Let's get some new cool missions and some. Well, they're not going to be cool, are they? They're going to be the same kind of stuff. Let's get some new reward tanks out there to try to get to. New game features and new game modes. Bloody heck! How many game modes do you need? You work on the pub match. That is your bread and butter. New game modes. They're so fixated on game modes. Where does that come from? I do not understand that. This one I'm really worried about. I'm not jiggy with this one. To reach back to 1995 or so. Some of my younger watchers might not even know what the heck that means. All right. Cruise will be reworked completely. Oh, that's a train wreck. Dude, I like the cruise system. I know some people don't. I got to tell you, I think it's interesting because it's each guy, and you've got to kind of manage them. And I'm not even bothered by the fact that sometimes you lose a radio operator and you got to not use one later. It's just part of the flavor of this game. I like the complexity of that. I know probably I'm in the minority there, so it bums me out that they're going to do this. What they need to do is not a complete rework, but to rework the skills and perks a little bit so that some of the useless ones either become useful or they get rid of them and put something in that's useful. And I hope that they keep those skills and perks at kind of that low level of bonus that they are currently for most of them, so that they don't make them too overpowered. So I think they're trying to dumb this down too, and that's not really something I'm on board with. But there's no way that's stopping. That's happening. Several game events. That's cool. KV5 will soon be, I guess, tested in super test. So here we go with the preferential matchmaking premiums having something done to them or looked at to be buffed or changed or turned into regular premiums without preferential. This is going to be interesting, so stand by for that one. If we jump over here, I think it's all the same thing. I don't believe there was anything else I wanted to. Oh, yeah, that's right. I wanted to. And this is segueing us into the Fjords discussion here. Regarding maps, we're not being sneaky here. Province is a map for the Italian branch. It's very unique. It has its own style. Yeah, it's a fishbowl. Of course it's small, even after increasing its size to 850. But we'll see how it plays. Visually, it's very good. Well, fantastic, guys. Thanks for that. Visually, it's great. We know it's small. Let's see what happens. Okay. Oh man, so are we still going to sit on two hills and shoot at each other, and anybody who moves gets absolutely massacred? Is that the plan here? Whew. All right, let's go into the fjords thing and wrap this up. All right, let's take a look at this Map Mondays thing here real quick. And Domo Sapien from Wargaming NA. There's our video on fjords. There's a quick write-up by Air G of Guerrilla's, good player, better than me. If you're curious about some of the basic overall meta on the map, he's got a pretty good write-up right here. This is very pragmatic. This takes the map at face value and says, here it is, here's how you fight this thing. So that's, you know, you got to do that. The map is what the map is. But let's take a look then at some of the write-ups and what they think is going on in this map as opposed to what's actually going on this map. And that's the difference in where we start to fall down with their map design. So here's what it looks like redesigned. Hard to get it all on this. There we go. Got it all on the screen. So what they've done is they really flattened out this area right here. They've got a bunch of trees in here and a bunch of trees and bushes here. Really thick kind of stuff. So it's easy to filter up and get tanks along here and get tanks along here. There's sort of an approach up into the brawling area, and they call that a brawling area right there. But unfortunately, that's not really a brawling area because for the green team, this coming up and over here is completely exposed to guys sitting down here. And if these guys are lit down here, they're completely exposed to guys up here. So it's a crossfire thing, but unfortunately, the Reds have the big advantage because the red team can kind of push up here and start lighting, and they get support from down here. Now, if you get countered with green here, there can be some shots coming down here, but I've seen the green team suffer by trying to push. And if they actually get down here, there's no reason to. Because once they get down here, there's no real place to go. They get wiped out by these dudes shooting up there as well. So look at these two angles coming up into here. And for the red team, there's really no angles to hit these guys trying to come up and brawl unless they can get up on the sniping tower, they being the green team on this. The sniping tower does have some shots up in there. Or if they come up to the kiddie pool and actually win this spot here, they have some shots up in here as well. But it's much, much easier for the red team to shoot up into the green team than it is for the green team to try to stop the red team. Because there's no corresponding, as the red team comes up, there's no corresponding fallback position back here sniping down on the red team. So it's very, very difficult for the red guys to get up there. This spotting tower, as it says down the write-up down here, is in theory so that whoever wins it can either light these guys up if it's the red team or light these guys up if it's the green team. What I have found in practice is you pop out, get spotted, and wiped out off the spotting tower, or Artie nukes the crap out of you up there and splashes the snot out of you. So the spotting tower is a high risk, high reward, but very difficult to take. So making a counter on your map that is high risk, high reward is not a great idea. There needs to be more reasonable counters to strong positions. Not overpowered counters. That's not what I'm saying, but a very high risk, high rewards thing like that, you cannot trust that to be a counter. So in the majority of instances, it won't be, because people won't be able to take it or use it to be that counter. So if you're planning on this high risk, high reward spot being part of the balance of the map, then you're way off base. That's not how you balance a map. You need a more moderate risk, moderate reward, or you can just build the standoff pillbox act, which is kind of what we really have, and ends up being how this map is fought, really. Guys just kind of sitting back here, blapping each other until somebody gets some kind of advantage, because there's really no way to push across this open spot. And that's when we get down to here, when they start talking about the field. Because, let me just read it. This site has undergone the most drastic changes in redesign. The middle's been flattened quite a bit with a big sprawling expanse covering the majority of the middle. Yeah, they've completely flattened and denuded it. Several areas of trees and rocks in the middle have been removed. All right, well, that's the problem. Well, there was nothing wrong with this, actually. This map was a good map. I don't even know if I ever really heard any complaints about fjords. Did anybody ever say, oh, fjords is a terrible map, we need to have it removed? Just like I never really heard anyone complain about Erlenberg. That may be different on the RU cluster, so I don't really know why they just completely redesigned this middle spot of the map. It really doesn't make much sense. Now, here's what's interesting. Trees have been removed, and the entire middle area now stretches, splitting two areas of heavy foliage. What was previously a mess of firing lanes. All right, so this is all you really need to know. That statement right there, that does actually explain it. It explains what they think was going on, or what they don't like. I guess they don't like a mess of firing lanes. A mess of firing lanes equals interesting. It equals being able to understand those firing lanes, being able to gain an advantage by the angles you're coming at them, by being able to advance with cover fire, things like that. Interesting stuff. What we have now has been separated into two distinct, and let's read the rest of it, has been separated into two distinct bunker areas on the northwest and southeast. All right, so there you have it, fellas. Your interesting, oh, look at what I just did right there. Your interesting firing lanes have been replaced by static bunkers, and that is somehow, to wargaming, an improvement. I mean, there you have it. I mean, it's black and white right there. The mentality of why they changed fjords, and in fact, why multiple maps, and probably all the ones they touched, turned into static bunker-style battles, with only one or two spots where you can advance. Erlenberg is another great example of that. You've got the middle where you can kind of drive up the middle, and then you've got two bunkers on each flank where you can sit in bushes and blast at anyone foolish enough to try to advance. It's terrible, man. Terrible. I don't even know what to say. When I read that whole thing, I just thought, wow. Now, this might just be Domo Sapiens' opinion or his write-up. I'm not really sure. He's the one who wrote up right here, so I'm assuming that it's him. Is this his idea of how it's going? Is he not really quoting wargaming policy on, not policy necessarily, but the idea of what they were doing with this map? I don't know. But he is an employee, and this really speaks to what they've done. So let's say that's not necessarily wargaming's write-up. You know, he didn't take this from the company. He just wrote that up in his own mind. He is correct, because that is in fact what has happened here. Holy cow. Well, I don't know what to say about that. If that's the redesign philosophy, and frankly it seems to be, maybe not in those particular words, but in actuality of what has happened with the map, Erlenberg, fjords, glacier, with bunkers that you have to push, that does not bode well for new map design, and it certainly doesn't bode well for redesigned maps. Well, all right. I'm about out of coffee. I'm going to play a few games in the morning here, then I'm going to go golfing. That's pretty much all I've got, fellas. Ladies, gentlemen, missions, spaghetti update, get your mutant if you want it. Patch 1.0 is very close to coming on board. Closer than I thought, actually. So here come the Italians. Time to grind a line. What I'm going to do on that one is I'll probably free experience up to about tier 5. And then I'll play tier 5 and above. And you can expect reviews of all the Italian tanks as I move through them, just like I've done in the past. Then we talked about the future. Some interesting things were said right there. A few disturbing things. And then followed it up with a little discussion on fjords and how the map redesigns are, I think, a little bit off the rails. That's all I got. Like I said, I'm about done with the coffee. You guys have a good remainder of your weekend, and we will see you on the channel.